Hello and welcome, Book Dragons new and old, to the Geek on My Sleeve channel, where we do weekly book reviews, summary recaps, and live book discussions every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, unless we say otherwise. Occasionally, we try to accommodate some of our other friends that we have on the channel, and thanks to this channel, we have made Book Dragon friends all across the globe, and we do what we can to accommodate their time zones. My name is Carl, and I have my co-host Peter joining me today to do a book very close to our heart, a spoiler-free review of The Final Empire Mistborn Book 1 by Brandon Sanderson, narrated by Michael Kramer. This will be counting as one of the books for our 52 book challenge, where we are trying to cover on average one new book a week. You can learn more about that in the associated video. We'll try it through the cards up above. Yeah, if you enjoy what you see, you'd like to hang out with us some more, please like and subscribe. The audiobook length is 24 hours and 39 minutes, and the print copy comes in at 676 pages. So, in regards to age rating, where would you put this book at, Pete?
I'd put it probably teen because there's a bit of combat and it really is a lot more of an emotional struggle for our main character and trying to come to terms with, being a friend. So I think it very much teen just for, there's not a whole lot of explicit, there's not any explicit or mature, super mature content, but a lot of teens are struggling with their identity as it is, so it really fits.
I'm not a teen, and I still struggle with my identity sometimes. But yeah, I feel the teen rating is very appropriate, especially we'll get into the synopsis here in a little bit, but the main character is a female who exists or lives in the criminal world, right? Where they're not always great people. And to be the only female on a thieving crew, um, it implies there are some challenges. And yeah, probably not appropriate for children. Um, but yeah, synopsis of the book. How would you describe this book to a friend, Pete, without giving any spoilers away?
It starts off as a thieving job, hey, let's go complete this goal, this objective, and then it turns out that what they thought could be just this job is so much more. And you have a couple characters that have very strong, I guess, feels about what should be done, and they strongly influence it. There are several times where, even though we had your best interests in mind, your best intentions going forward in completing this objective, we fail. And so there's a lot of ups and downs throughout it.
It's about a thieving crew who's trying to do a job. We do follow the main character, Vin, who is a teenage girl, and just her struggles and challenges adjusting to kind of a new world for her, as she meets the new guys on this job. She's grown up in the underground, and has some emotional baggage from that, and it's a really amazing story. We like to get into the different categories and rankings, which we'll get into below, but um, this book is probably one of the books that I have gifted the most. Um, Highly recommend it, constantly gifting it out to others. If you're a fan of fantasy, you will find out that why, for overall rating, um, I give it a 5 stars, 5 out of 5. Something that very cautious to do so. Full disclaimer, we are Brandon Sanderson fanboys, but there is a reason for that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And for me, like this book holds a special place for me because when I found it, in many ways it helped me develop a lot of things. And more or less, the main character ends up getting mentored, and there's a lot of good quotes. And I wish I had it in front of me, but essentially, it talks about consequences. And so everything you do has a consequence, and the person who can best justify or rationalize the consequence is going to go further in life. And it's just, yeah, it has a lot of good quotes for, I guess, empowering, people and going forward. Um, yeah, yeah, this was also one of the big ones that got me into, being passionate about reading. Yeah, I'd put it at a 5 for overall.
There is a reason why this is probably one of our most reread and re-listened to book out there, and yeah, glad we're finally doing a spoiler-free review for our channel. Um, One of the categories we're going to give a ranking on and do a little bit deeper dive is world building. What would you give it, Pete?
So, world building, or we're just understood 5 unless otherwise. World building was big for me because it took a concept which is not, new. It's essentially slavery. And it spun it in such a way with so many cool powers and such a grand scale that for the majority of the book, you feel overwhelmed. You're like, really? No, we can't do that. But then throughout the world and different aspects of it, great things happen. Can't say more.
Yes, yes. If you spend any time online on any of the different book fantasy subreddits, there is a reason why Brandon Sanderson is constantly recommended. He is known for his world building. For those of you who don't know, I guess this counts as a minor spoiler, but the Mistborn series is part of a larger universe called the Cosmere. Um, and he just has this way of helping to craft this world for you, giving you all this information, and then that's just the first layer. And then you get more lore, you understand the magic system more, and then there's another layer to it, and another layer, and then more things make sense on the previous layer or the layer below that. And he just continues to scale and build. And this book just does it so well and does it in a way that it's not overwhelming or exhausting, right? He's found a way to incorporate it so well into the story that it just, yeah, the immersion quality of it.
Yeah, it's very much a perspective quality. Like, you learn all these things from whoever you're following, main character perspective, and then you get hints and you get other things that bring it all together when they interact with other people who have a different perspective. And
So with that being said, character development, another clear 5 star. Um, I assume for both of us, certainly for me. Uh, so many of my favorite characters out there are in this book. Again, don't want to go into spoilers, but they all have, um, you know, their own redeeming qualities about them, their own quirks, and they all come together to make this incredible team that, in their own ways, can kind of help mentor this young street urchin slash youth. And yeah, as Pete said earlier on, just thinking right now, there are so many good quotes that come from these characters, and incredible life lessons that they portray and put out that, yeah, just a huge fan of the character development.
Yeah, same there. Character development is kind of on a grand scale, if I can say that, because Batman. So not exactly your parents die, but and then you become Batman, so you're awesome. So there's a that's I guess kind of main character development. Each of the characters in our main core function together beautifully, and there is a lot of that, questioning yourself and coming to terms with it and working together. And yeah, the development is there and it gets even better throughout the series.
Especially for the main character Vin, too, right? And it's not just this overnight instant belief. Like, you see her go through this journey in just the first book, um, and you can kind of track it along the way. Some other stories you read, it's just like a switch is flipped, and then all of a sudden they've grown and developed.
Well, I would say through all of them because they all kind of have their like main basis for why they wanted to get involved with this, why they want to do what they're going to do, and then due to other people in the party or other people in the, on the job, it alters it. And due to, unforeseen circumstances that come from doing the job that you set up to do, you now have added elements that, stay your hand.
Goes without saying, writing style. We're huge Brandon Sanderson fanboys. He is an instant buy for us for a reason. If you fancy yourself a writer, you're interested in writing, look up his YouTube. If I think about it, I'll try to include the card up above. He has his full college course, yep, of writing up there. And even if you're not interested in writing yourself, just going and watching and listening to him lecture on the art of creative writing, it's truly incredible. Truly incredible.
Writing style, we kind of briefly talked about it, but layers on layers, and this is more than just Shrek being an onion. This is, yeah, yeah. And the way he does it, it's all about the information that you have available, and then, due to a perspective shift or due to, only being able to see what you see and not being able to see through other people's eyes like we can because we just, pour it over and it says so and so said this. Yeah, there are so many layers. Plus, like, the end of one is satisfying. Like, yeah, yeah. The end of one is satisfying, but then it also adds more questions than answers and keeps nagging at you that there could be so much more.
Yeah. I think we talked about that in the Geek Out session. It's something that I can really appreciate about his writing style and the way he approaches the cliffhangers is he manages to wrap up some story arcs and fulfill some of those promises that are made early on in the book while still including more questions for you and more details that make you want to continue, right? And I think if an author can leave you feeling satisfied at the end of the book, but still curious enough and invested enough to want to continue on, like, they've hit that sweet spot of success for the novel. Um, I know there's plenty of times where, I'll read a book and maybe there's more later on in the series, and I fall on one side or the other. Either I'm completely satisfied and I could just put the book down and not need to continue, or I'm not satisfied at all and there's just none of the story arcs get wrapped up, none of the promises get kept, and you're just left frustrated and at a cliffhanger, and you almost don't want to continue just because you're like, well, if none of the promises get kept, what's the point in continuing on, right?
Yeah, I guess we did kind of incorporate cliffhangers in our writing style. But yeah, so there's a lot of them. As we were talking with the development of the main character and the mentoring, and then, due to the powers vested in the Great Beyond, things happen. And so now our linchpin, our Rock, our Batman are all in a different place, and we have to, we're at a cliffhanger, we're at a turning point in our life, and we need to reassess and readdress.
So, final thoughts on the book, Pete?
Final thoughts on the book. I don't see why you haven't bought it already, but I would definitely recommend the Mistborn series if you're trying to get into Brandon Sanderson. It is one of his earlier works. You've already read the Stormlight Archives. He gets better, but it is also a different flavor. So I would still recommend doing this one first. If you have read the other one, see where he came from. It's a different yet similar yet Cosmere.
I completely agree. As I said early on in the video, it's one of my most frequently gifted books to family and friends for a reason. It's an incredible story. And yeah, we've already done a Geek Out stream slash live book discussion for this book. Uh, Now the spoiler-free review is out. You have some time to get caught up on the series as we work our way towards the final book in Mistborn Era 1 trilogy. So get on it.
Bye.
Bye.